week is only ladies. Last week I introduced the ladies and the one gentleman we had in the corner, but somebody must have chased him away, scared him away. He's gone. So it's just me and one lovely lady. Okay. I'm going to attempt to do something today that might be a little bit daunting, but I think we can handle it. We're going to try to combine together a theme of last week's portion. Anybody out there? What was the name of last week's double portion? Matos Mase. This week's portion, Helen, is Pashat Devarim. Nice to see you. It's actually a holiday. It is called the holiday of Tisha B'Av that's coming up on Sunday. We don't say the Tachanun prayer, which is reserved for holidays. We don't say it on holidays. So Tisha B'Av is definitely a Yom Tov, as the pasuk says, Kara Alai Moed. The word Moed, which is referring to in the Torah, the Yom Tovim, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, it's also referring to Tisha B'Av as well. So Tisha B'Av is also referred to as a Moed. So let's see if we can combine together all these themes. And that's based on a concept. The Gemara tells us that there was a great man named Ezra HaSofer, and he's the one that put together what parshios, what Torah portion, what subjects are read during what time of the year. And there are reasons behind it. So, for example, on Sunday, which is Tisha B'Av, we will be reading the portion which is actually found in next week's Parsha, Parshas Barasmana. We are going to read for the Torah reading of that day. The portion is actually found in that week. So there is a connection between the Torah portion that we read and the time of the year. Last week's portion, Pashat Maseh, it discusses the journeys of the Jewish people. They traveled from this place to that place. Okay, we'll make it more user-friendly over here. They went from Miami Beach to Bell Harbor, and then they went from Bell Harbor, they went to Aventura, and then they went to Hollywood. Okay, so we use more of a Middle East theme. What's the same idea? Something that you can relate to. So the Torah tells us that they travel from city to city. When it gets to the city, it doesn't really talk about too much what happens at the city. There was a few exceptions. We're going to talk today about what happened last week, and that is when they went to a city called, it's hard to pronounce, but you can do it, Har HaHor, the mountain of the mountain. Anybody out there know what event took place? What was the city of Har HaHor famous for? Very good. Learn the crowd again. You got to tell me next time. Got a very learned crowd over here. So Aaron HaKohen, the great Aaron the priest, the brother of Moses and Miriam, he died at Har HaHor. Now, this episode, the death of the great Aaron HaKohen, did it actually take place now in that week's portion? The answer is no. It took place a few weeks earlier. And Tashat Chukas is when Aaron died. So the question that we're going to ask is, if the Torah wants to tell us the details, now it happened last Friday, Rosh Chodesh Av. The Torah, when it actually happened, when Aaron actually passed away, Torah doesn't discuss the details. How it happened, when it was, where it was. In this week's portion, welcome Judd, my old friend from Miami Beach, the Torah talks about the death of Aaron HaKohen and goes into details. If it wants to discuss the details of his death, when it happened, where it was, discuss it when it happened, not a few weeks later. The answer could be as follows, based on what we said before. The Torah is trying to hint to us the idea of something that we all need to learn, especially during this period. The temple, the Talmud tells us that the temple, the same temple, which is what we're mourning now, was destroyed because of what's called in Hebrew, Sinas Chinam. It's a very common expression that we all learn about during this period. Baseless hatred. And therefore, the Torah could be specifically discusses the details of the death of Aaron during this period because of what Aaron stood for. The Mishnah tells us that Aaron HaKohen epitomized and always taught us the following thing. Ladies, help me out over here. Aaron was always shalom. He loved peace. He was Roidev Shalom. He ran after peace, and he loved people and brought them to Torah. So it could be that the Torah discusses the death in detail during this period because the Torah wants us to stop and think. You know, when a great man passes away, we just lost over here in the Miami community a great man last week, Rabbi Weberman, Oliver Shaw. He was a great man. He led the Miami Beach community for 60 years, a very long time. And you know, most people, when they heard about the death of this great man, they said to themselves, what lessons can we learn from him? What did he stand for? It's interestingly, when I was preparing this talk, I came up with the following idea. What was the name of his shul? Oh, it's Shalom. Very interesting, very good. So that's what happens. When somebody passes away, you think about, what did the person stand for? What can I learn from him? So the Torah could be puts together the death of Aaron Cohen in detail, or Shoyin HaShav, to teach us that that's something that we should learn from. We should learn from the life of Aaron Cohen and to bring it into our lives, the idea of loving fellow man. Let me show this idea and then I'll answer this. This idea in the Talmud. The Talmud tells us that if a person goes ahead and goes to a wedding, the main thing of a wedding is not to care about you having a good time. It is to care about and to give happiness and to rejoice with the bride and groom. The Talmud tells us that if you do that, it's a great reward. Then the Talmud tells us something else interesting, which ties into this time of the year. If you do that, besides getting the blessings, you also do such a great thing by making the bride and groom happy. It's considered as if you rebuilt one of the ruins of Jerusalem. Ki'ilu Bana, I've read it up there, Achas mi Korba Yerushalayim. Why? What's the connection? Why, if you bring joy and happiness to a bride and groom, is it considered as if you rebuild Jerusalem? The answer is, based on what we said before, the temple was destroyed based on a lack of Ahavas Yisrael, love between man and fellow man. The interpersonal relationships were lacking a little bit. So when a person goes ahead and goes to a wedding and focuses on the bride and groom, it's not your wedding. You're not getting married. Somebody else is getting married. And to rejoice with somebody else's happiness. That is what? That's Ahavas Yisrael. That's Ahavas Bina. That's loving fellow man. That's caring about another Jew. Thank you. What we're supposed to be doing during this period and throughout the whole year. But especially during this period, we have to increase our faith, our love between man and his fellow man. To end on this thought about the importance of Ve'odom L'Chavero, I just wanted to say one more thing, and that's as follows. The Talmud tells us that when Haman, the evil Haman, during the Purim story, he made a lottery to find out when he wanted to, unfortunately, he had a bad plan to get rid of the Jewish people. And when the lottery fell during the month of Adar, he was happy. He said, hey, Adar, that's when Moses died. That must be a bad month for the Jewish people. So he was so excited. And so what happened? He found out that not only did Moses pass away during that time, he was born during that time. Tzaddik and great people live throughout the year. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. The question is, if Aaron HaKohen, if the great Aaron passed away during the month of Av, as we said before, he was also born in the month of Av. So how come, just like Moshe Rabbeinu was able to save Adar, Adar became a great month, we have Purim during Adar, how come Aaron HaKohen wasn't able to save Av? Why do we mourn? Why do we have Tisha B'Av? How come Aaron wasn't able to save the month of Av and to prevent the tragedies? So the Chassam Sofer, or Moshe Sofer, a couple hundred years ago in Hungary, tells us a tremendous idea, and I'll end with this thought. And that is, do you know when the month can be saved? Do you know when a righteous person can save the month? If the Jewish people learn from that great man, and they follow in the ways of that great man. The Talmud tells us that during the Purim story, the Jewish people were so inspired that they accepted the Torah again. So they followed in the ways of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe was great for so many things, but he's called Moshe Rabbeinu a teacher. He taught us Torah. And so the Jewish people during the Purim story, they reaffirmed their connection to learning Torah, living Torah, and and they were not increasing in their interpersonal relationships, and therefore Aaron wasn't able to save them. It's not an easy ticket. It's only going to work if you follow the ways of the righteous, and therefore the righteous can get saved. So let us be blessed. Let us learn from this concept. Let us follow the ways of Aaron and Kohen. Always shalom, love peace, right of shalom, run after peace. If you see two people not getting along, you try to make peace, and you bring them closer to Torah. And then by doing that, we can hopefully, this will be our last Tisha B'Av, and we can help by learning the ways of Aaron and bringing the Mashiach speedily in our days. Thank you for your attention.